Hey, English 111 students, welcome to week 3 of our 13-week course. This week we are going to start talking about and working toward outlining our first formal assignment. And we'll talk more about the formal assignment next week as well. We're going to do every formal assignment in baby steps. It's a process to be a good writer. So I'm never just going to assign you a paper and say, here, go write this paper. We're going to always talk about that assignment. We're going to look at examples of it. We're going to do an outline. We're going to do a rough draft, we're going to do peer review, and then we're going to revise our formal paper if we didn't get an A on it. So it's a lot of steps, and we do that with each formal assignment so that you guys get the best grade possible for your formal assignment. So this week we're going to look at our current writing habits. A lot of students underestimate the amount that they write every day. Some of you think about writing in terms of just what you do for school, but with our social media habits, our texting habits, our emailing habits, a lot of us write more than we realize. And a lot of us are actually better writers because we do write in all those different genres on a regular basis. So we're going to write about actually in your first discussion board assignment this week. You're going to tell me about your writing habits. What genres of writing do you write in on a regular basis? And when I say genre, I don't mean genre of like books that you could read, like fiction, nonfiction, science fiction. Those are definitely different genres of literature. There are also different genres of music, pop music, indie music, country music. When I talk about genre of writing in English 111 or 112, I'm talking about the type of writing that you're doing that has a specific purpose and is done for a specific audience. So texting is a genre of writing. There are rules for texting. Nobody's written down those rules somewhere and you guys look those rules up when you're texting. You just kind of know this is texting. This is the genre that I'm writing in. So I know I can use emojis. I know I can use slang. I know I can use acronyms. Taking notes for class, another genre of writing. And really depending on which class it is, some teachers are asking you to, for example, to do Cornell notes in one class, whereas in another class, a teacher asks you to take notes, but they don't really have very specific rules. So that's another genre of writing. Social media posting, and whether it's TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, whatever genre or whatever platform you're using for social media, they all have their own specific rules of how you write. And even if you're writing with images or creating videos, you're still doing some form of writing or communicating. Keeping a journal, papers that you're creating for class assignments, even posting in the discussion board in our class, that's a specific genre that's got very specific rules. If you have looked at my posting guidelines, blogging, emailing, there are specific rules for each of these genres. So you guys are going to tell me some of the writing that you do on a regular basis, just so that you can think about some of the writing that you do regularly. And again, most of you underestimate the amount of writing that you do. A lot of teachers say that social media is killing your writing abilities. I do not agree with that. I think that it's actually helped you guys become better writers in some ways, because you do realize that there are rules for each of those genres of social media that you're writing in, and you're inherently thinking about those rules and adhering to those rules when you're posting. So being able to navigate these different kinds of genres is going to help you not only as writers now, but in the future, because every class that you write for in college every instructor is going to ask you to write differently. There's not just one way that you write. So, well, that's your first discussion board assignment this week. Then you're going to look at different examples of literacy narratives. So, what is a literacy narrative? What is literacy? What does writing a narrative mean? Read through this. It's going to give you some more details. Your first formal assignment for me is going to be a literacy narrative. So you guys are going to look at different examples of literacy narratives. Malcolm X's Learning to Read is probably one of the most famous examples of a literacy narrative. He was actually in prison when he learned how to read, and it really changed his life. Literacy, the ability to read, the ability to write, it impacts us in phenomenal ways. And so that journey of learning to read and write is really what we're going to think about as we work on our own literacy narratives next week. Well, starting this week, but next week is when you'll write the paper. So Malcolm X, Learning to Read, Olga Mykolaievna, I'm sorry, I'm butchering her last name. Language as fluent must be free. That's her literacy narrative. Kiki Petrosino writes also about her journey to become a reader and writer. And then one of my favorite writers, Joe Didion, on keeping a notebook. So as a journalist, as a writer, a professional writer, what kinds of things was she keeping up with and putting in her notebook, and her journey with literacy. So those are examples of literacy narratives. You guys are going to read 2 of them, not all 4, but just choose 2, and then you're going to post in the discussion board. And then how do you write your outline for the literacy narrative? So this is important because this is the first step in creating that literacy narrative. And it's the only part of this formal assignment that we'll work on this week. So we'll talk about the rest of the formal assignment next week. Don't get ahead of yourselves. Don't start emailing me and asking me how many words, how many pages does that assignment need to be? When is it due? We'll deal with all that next week. So for now, you're just going to start working on your outline. So this gives you a lot of detail on what should be in your outline. There's also a short video here that I want you to watch that will show you exactly what you need to include. So that's due on Sunday in the discussion board. And don't forget, you need to look at 2 peers' outlines and comment on them before this closes out Sunday evening. This discussion board with analyzing 2 literacy narratives is due Friday. And then, of course, your current writing habits and trends. This will be due Wednesday. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Remember, don't get ahead of yourself and start asking me questions about the actual paper that we're going to be working on next week. You'll have plenty of time next week to take your outline that you've created this week, work on your rough draft. You'll be assigned a partner. You're going to participate in peer review. And then you'll have time to take their feedback from peer review and work on your final draft, which will be, due next week. So this week we're just working on our assignments for this week and not getting ahead of ourselves. So let me know if you guys need help or have questions or concerns. A lot of you are texting me. A lot of you are emailing me with questions. I am so thankful for that. I would much rather you email me or text me with questions that you might even think are silly, so that you can go directly to the source